Hey guys, my name is Shawn. This is another episode of Dangerous Ideas. We made it to episode 10. Oh my God, we made it to episode 10. It is. I didn't think we'd actually get here, to be honest with you, but I'm really excited. This episode is really special. As you know, in this podcast, what we do is we break down concepts and frameworks that will change your life, change your business, change your career, but most importantly, change your life. And we sort of weave in some current events that are happening in the world. But today, I'm really excited. I got two guests, two really good friends of mine. First, we have Sachin, Sahel. You want to say what's up to the camera?
Hey, what's up, y'all? How you doing? Shawn has the best introductions of all time.
Woo!
That man's energy is unmatched.
I appreciate it. And then we have Justin Delhon here.
Hey, how you guys doing? Thanks for having me.
Now, I'm going to put your guys' bios in the links below. And it's crazy because, people watch this podcast and be like, who are these two guys? And actually, it doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter about me either. This is about the ideas at the end of the day. And you don't even know, guys. These guys are two really prolific, funny, charismatic individuals. But it's not about them, which is crazy. Have you ever been on a podcast and nobody introduces you properly?
I love it.
That's the concept of the show. This is about the ideas.
I was actually hoping you'd blur our faces and really go for the full concept, but it's fine the way it is.
Well, listen, I have a whole bunch of different concepts I want to get to today, but I have a bone to pick, and this is around my first concept, which is this idea that you shouldn't believe anything. Don't believe anything that you read. And the bone that I have to pick is that we have a group chat. There's a whole bunch of other folks in the group chat. I don't know if I'm spilling the beans on a group chat. But in the group chat, what happens is that somebody will throw in a news link, an article, a headline, a screenshot, and they haven't done the due diligence, and that information is not real. And then people will be like, oh my God, then the news will carry on. They're going to tweet that or send that message to somebody else. And then they're proliferating fake information. And that happens a lot in basketball because there are lots of basketball fake sites, butt crack sports, a lot of these things where they're saying the craziest. And the beauty is that it's kind of a fake information. It's like it almost seems real, but it's not.
Yeah.
So, what do you guys think of this? Let me give you an example of it, by the way. And one thing that somebody fell into, which was, I think, Draymond Green and Jordan Poole, when they got in their original altercation, I believe there was some information that Draymond was mad because Jordan Poole said something like, you cracker ass, something. I don't know, which was not real at all, but that's what was proliferated. So why does this happen? Justin, I'm going to start with you.
Well, one, I mean, if you think about how much we are like our dads, it's this conversation right now. The amount of times my dad has forwarded me something that was 100% fake,
right,
not even needing to verify it, like microchips or just the things that are the most obvious. But I think the reason it happens is people are getting really good at faking news now. Like people aren't doing the ridiculous kind of thing, like the Draymond story, for example. You believe that reading it as a headline. Like a lot of these things you don't actually think you need to verify. The reason I do go on like Twitter to verify a lot of these things is because people have gotten so good at it. I want to make sure I'm not the guy that gets caught with it.
Right.
So I think the people making the fake news have become, it's no longer like a Mad Magazine headline. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's actually believable because of the world we live in.
What do you think, man? Have you? I know you fall into it too.
100%. People are just out for it's a microcosm for everything that's happening, right? So people are just out for hits, right? What gets you a hit, and it'll be forgotten next week. So they know they can make up some fake article. They're not going to be accountable for it at all. They can post it. It'll be outlandish. 6 million people will write on it being like, this is crazy, and it'll be forgotten next week, but they will get everything they need from it.
Right.
So they send it to the advertisers.
100%.
How many hits we got?
It's not about the news. It's not about anything. It's about why back in the day were tabloids sitting at the front
100%.
Of the newsstand? Because that's what people look at. That's what they want. They're like, oh my God, this is exciting, because that's really what we want from news now.
So what do we do? Because I see, we're all professionals in our respective fields. We're all well-educated. Like even the group chat, there's doctors and whatever else. Yet everyone falls into the trap.
Because we want it to be true.
No matter how much education that you have.
But we want it to be true.
And we also want to talk about it.
Yeah, it's fun.
We want to. We're so excited to talk with our boys about something crazy that happened. Yeah, we jump in that group chat,
I get it.
And we would be like, guys, this happened, and then we can go off. It's a big part of like the whole camaraderie.
But
of
we also don't want to look like an idiot. So when we post something, that is completely not true,
Yes.
it kind of you look like an idiot because you fell into the fake news.
As I've gotten older, I've stopped worrying about looking like an idiot. I think it's just gonna happen. Like if you get over the idea that you're gonna look like an idiot at times, just do it.
I think the easiest way is if you send the fake news and you don't know that it's fake, and then someone calls you out on it, if you send the laughing emoji, you immediately get away with it all.
Right.
Because now it's like, haha, you guys fell
Legit,
for it.
legit.
Like
Right.
you running the gag on them. So it becomes really easy to just get out of that. It's like a get out of jail free card. The laughing emoji just gets you feel.
Well, it's just, but it's not good. As you guys know, well, obviously we're joking about it. It's not a good thing. Right?
No,
We
100%.
shouldn't.
Yes.
I think we need to be proactive about it and say
Yeah.
anything that you read, anything,
Period.
just don't believe it.
yeah.
And go back to the other sources, see what other people are saying, and have that information sit with you, but don't believe it right away. That to me, that's just being proactive.
Legit. And you have to do that nowadays more than anything. Like with every piece of news that comes, just be like, all right, I'll take this with a grain of salt, but make your own discernment about a lot of these things.
Yes.
That's an important idea. You have to make your own discernment about everything that you hear, especially with basketball now. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Every 5 minutes there's something fake.
Well, I remember, I don't know where you guys were when Kobe passed away, but when Kobe passed, I don't know if you remember the first like hour or 2 hours.
Nobody believed it.
Nobody believed it. And then there was other like, oh, his whole family was on it. I think I heard that like Rick Fox was on it. Did you guys?
I
Yeah.
remember that,
Yeah.
like, I've never seen CNN, because we were watching it when it happened, be so, like, unaware as to what to report. Like, they were so blind to it because no one knew the facts. And Twitter was just spewing so many things. And you know how CNN cuts to the tweets, right? They don't know what to do. So you're watching reporters not know how to report on this crazy news story. Because
Right.
there's so many fake things coming out.
And it felt so outlandish. Nobody believed it. You could feel the people
I didn't.
reporting on it. I didn't believe it at
Yeah.
all. I was at a convention.
Right.
In front of all, I was like, don't make up this kind of. It just seems, to this day, it feels outlandish that that's a real thing.
Yeah.
Totally.
You know? So,
So I think in that particular case, obviously that is extreme, right? That is extreme.
Yeah.
Of course, you shouldn't believe it. My whole point is that like within that story, there were other parts of that story that were like, people were saying that were fake and whatnot.
Yeah.
But so in order to be proactive about this, can we take a pause before we like send a message in the WhatsApp thread to a friend, tweet something out? Can we take a pause? I'll give you another example. And this is what happens. It's similar to this, where people will take like a clip of a podcast, maybe this podcast. They'll take a clip of the podcast.
Totally.
They didn't watch the full podcast, and they will make an assessment of what they were talking about in that particular clip, even if they clipped it out. I'll give you one example that I saw yesterday. So Stephen A. Smith, he has his own podcast, and he was talking about the layoffs at ESPN, and all his colleagues were left, were left in the dust. And in the particular clip that he put out, he didn't mention Max Kellerman. However, I watched the full thing, and he did talk about Max Kellerman.
Yeah.
But of course, I saw on Twitter that people were like, "Oh man, like you didn't, like how dare you? You didn't talk about Max Kellerman." To be honest with you, he should have talked about Max Kellerman to start with.
Yeah.
But that's just, you take a clip from a podcast, and then people just run with it.
Was this a clip that he put out or someone else put it out?
So he put it out too.
So do you think that's a little bit interesting that he chose to put out a clip? Because he has full autonomy as to what goes out from his own podcast, right? So do you think it's a little bit interesting he didn't mention Max in the clip that he chose?
It's slightly interesting,
right?
It's slightly interesting that he didn't mention Max until.
but again, he might be intelligent enough that be like, no, I did mention Max, but I'm going to post this one.
Yeah, that's what I
get
think.
hits.
Yeah, I agree with Sachin on that. Because
Okay.
if you're choosing to put that out there, then the backlash is kind of on you. You actively chose that clip, right?
Right.
Not saying he did anything wrong, more so that the reaction can't be a surprise when you put that out there yourself. And he has people around him who are going to say, hey, do you want us to put this part in it?
Right.
And he will say yes or no.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
But in most cases,
It's a third party
totally.
that's
the
cutting
third
it.
party
Yeah.
taking.
it's happened so many times. All people
Has it
do is
happened
take
to you?
little.
I'm just curious.
Oh, all the time, dude.
Wow.
All the time. Little clips or little like mentions or little things here and there that you'll say something and then people will just take it But they do that for everything. I watch this on Twitter all the time where this happens. I not being on Twitter for a year was like the happiest year of my life.
Yeah.
And then I came back to it. But you just watch people just say one thing, and then everybody just goes crazy on it as if they were talking about somebody else. And then, if you're talking about like Beyonce or Taylor Swift or somebody will say something that could have to do with Beyonce. Probably doesn't, but everybody like, oh my God, you're shading Beyonce. And I'm like, what are you? No, nobody was saying anything about this stuff.
Right.
And I don't even want to know about this stuff. I don't want to know who's Taylor Swift is shading Beyonce. Don't give me this information. It's not helping me.
The implication that people have on Twitter is insane. Like you could have a guy wearing the typical like Trump voter profile pic is sunglasses in a truck. Everyone knows this picture, right? And someone will post, that person will post, I'm not the biggest fan of Beyonce. Let's use her as an example. And you'll have 1,000 comments on this 300 follower profile saying, I wonder why. I wonder why.
Totally.
Shocking.
Yeah.
Total judgment call on someone who's just saying an innocuous thing about, you know what? That guy probably likes country music. You know what I mean? Like that's probably the extent of it. But the amount that people extrapolate from, what is it? I don't like Beyonce, 4 words. About you as a person is insane.
We just like to judge. Our first response, not I think we're pretty good. For on Twitter and all these places, the first immediate response is just extreme judgment of other humans now.
Right.
Yeah.
And the extreme judgment gets the clicks. Right? That you can't be mediocre. You can't say something that's in the middle.
No,
psychologically and physically, judgment and like gossip and trash talking, all that stuff releases dopamine in your system.
Right.
So you feel like you're connecting to humans. You feel like you're a connection in a world lack of connection, all that. We're not going to go deep into that. But so it makes you feel happier to do that. So
I realized that being in the middle only works for the people who are based in science. Like anyone who, like Malcolm Gladwell, for example, he can be interesting and in the middle because he's coming from such a educated perspective. But otherwise, if you're not like an acclaimed expert in that field or whatever the case may be, you have to be one way or the other extreme.
All right, guys. So we're back here on episode 10.
Wow, how did that
happen? We had
happen?
a little shift change.
Yeah, something went terribly wrong.
I don't know. I think I'm like Shawn 2.0.
I like it. It's an upgrade.
What were you guys talking about earlier on? So.
We were just going over the Twitter sphere
and how the answer to most things is in the middle, but most people don't want to get there. You have to be on either side of something, and we're talking about how people get outlandish.
You got to pick one side, and you can't just be
like.
It's definitely more fun, also, like if you're into that, to be on the outsides, right? Being in the middle is boring, and being.
I do agree.
It sucks though because that's not ideal for actually solving problems and having a real discussion.
Legit.
Off topic, what do you guys think about this Zuckerberg versus Elon Musk?
I don't know what dystopian future we've.
I feel like I'm in the movie Idiocracy.
Yeah, this is so shocking, but it's like not whoever is the script writer for Earth right now ran out of ideas, and they know that we need something to just keep the energy up.
Well, Sachin, you know this. They're on a writer's strike.
That's what it is.
Exactly what's going on.
100%. There's a writer's strike for Earth. And now we're having
first-year film students to come up with the script. And
they have a dartboard with like outlandish ideas.
Right?
And they just,
Is it crazy? Even Italy's in it.
It's
like,
unbelievable.
I don't even understand. Like it could actually happen.
In Rome, in the Colosseum, like it's just. I feel like they watched a Transformers movie and was like, "This isn't enough. We need more."
I can't with this.
Well. Going off the script off Shawn's laptop here, most people are not in the arena talking about arenas. Their opinions don't matter. I don't quite understand what that really means.
There's a quote, like it's a quote. If the people who aren't, I don't know the whole one, but if you're not in the arena, who you're not giving your blood, sweat, and tears.
Right.
The people in the stands are the ones that are telling the people in the arena how to be. I actually don't know the whole quote.
Yeah, well, I guess like the referee. I always make the joke of like, and you see the memes all the time where like the guy at home on a Sunday is watching the football game. They have their chicken wings on their stomach. They got their third beer, and they're yelling at the screen that guy's an idiot for not getting the extra yard. It's like I don't really think we're in a place to talk about. Like we can enjoy it, but it's kind of the point. I think is what Shawn was getting at is that like if you're not actually going to battle, if you're just on Twitter to comment, which a lot of people are.
Yes.
A lot of people live for commenting on Twitter. That's that's their hobby. It's become a hobby.
Yeah.
Is being a professional commenter.
Well, it's funny because I think Twitter is a lot of noise. I mean, I think only like 10% of people are active on Twitter, and most are just passive like viewers. So
totally.
it does feel like you're right. There's just
and the scary thing about it is though, like my parents don't go on Twitter. They don't have Twitter accounts,
Yes.
but they see tweets that are posted on. They watch CNN, right?
Yeah.
So they're only getting the extremes. They're not even seeing that there is like a normal discourse plays on Twitter. But
This is such a good quote. I think it's worth it to actually hear it. It's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat.
that's deep.
damn.
I think that's what Shawn meant.
And the reason I love that because
I love the whole context, by the way.
It's
'cause
beautiful.
Yeah, it's better than just like the one liner.
Yeah, when I was going to be an actor,
Right.
the amount of people I got before Twitter and all this stuff, when I moved first, I remember I heard from 2 people in this city in Edmonton when I moved. So I had great people supporting me, awesome humans like Justin and Shawn. But there are people who said I was a cautionary tale for what not to do for Indian kids. Because I went to university and then I moved and I was working at a restaurant trying to be an actor. And these are the people that were yelling. And then I got on a show. You didn't hear anything. And then after the show was done, all of a sudden, these things start happening again. Where it's like until you're working again, you just hear these little crickets that add on from people that, shouldn't really be saying anything to you.
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful statement that if you are not in that arena, you literally cannot tell a person who is in that fighting, doing whatever they can do to, do whatever they want to do in their own lives. They have no reason to say, and that's what I want everybody in this world to feel that they deserve to be whatever they're doing. Because, that was those first couple years, man.
No, I believe.
Yeah, you were out there too.
No, it's hard, man. And you know what? I'll be honest. It wasn't for me. I wasn't able to do the day-to-day of not having work in the industry.
Right.
So kudos to him. I tell him this all the time. Like that took so much more than I had in me. So I'm so happy that it worked out for me.
No, but it's also not for everybody. Like a lot of people
I
get
had to
into
figure
it.
that out. I had to
Yeah.
find that out for myself that it wasn't for
But
me.
you went in the arena to figure that out.
Yeah.
People could not tell you. Anybody outside of that, like that was risk as it was.
100%. And the
To
thing
even do
is,
that.
like, I one thing I wanted to like take away from it as a younger person, I'm sure you felt this. You probably, I know I did, equated my parents to that same criticism that other people. But parents is different because they're scared for you.
Totally.
It's the people that you're referring to. They're not scared for you. They don't care about you. They're legitimately just.
Totally.
It's almost like they're rooting against you.
You know what's funny? The most guilt I felt doing this was the stuff my parents were getting from other parents of like, what's Sachin up to? And they had to be like, oh, he's working at a restaurant. That to me actually hurt me. People can say whatever they want to me, but knowing they were, because they were pretty supportive. While they were nervous, as they were pretty supportive of this, which to this day, I tell them all the time, I'm so grateful. But having other parents, like not even in the arena, are telling parents about your son who's in the arena to then cause that feeling to them.
Yeah.
That I tell you now, man, I'm so happy they don't have to deal with that because that one hurt.
We have a mutual family friend that I'm not going to name names on the thing, but I'll tell you after, who, when I moved to Vancouver, my parents told them that that's what I was doing, and she outright, at a party, told my mom and dad, you can't let him do that. She said that, and I'll never forget hearing that from my mom. Because I'm like, this is an auntie who I've talked to like 10 times.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden she has life advice and career advice for me. It just,
Oh my God.
You know what I mean? It just blew. I don't know. I agree.
And the boo birds, they wait until they think. When you're flying, nobody says a thing to you.
100%.
It's crazy. And then what's actually been beautiful since being off the show, and we had a pandemic for 2 years, and then I didn't actually work for like a good 6 months after when things opened up. For whatever reason. But I then saw who was actually riding with me. And I don't ever want to have that moment, or like I never wanted to have that.
Yeah.
But for some reason when it comes to acting or you're doing something outlandish, when you're flying, and then people would there are certain people that love to tell you you're not doing great.
Yeah. honestly, I can relate too because I know we don't know each other.
Yeah.
Wait, I'm Shawn. You know me.
100%. Yeah.
So
he called himself Shawn 2.0.
You look so different with
I know,
glasses.
I know,
It's crazy.
right? Like-
Hat and glasses, new man.
How did he teleport like that?
But not too long ago, we had a documentary that I DP'd premiere at Hot Dogs Film Festival, and then it was kind of like, you know, when you're kind of working in the shadows, like no one's like, you know, oh, you know, he's doing his thing, he's not really whatever. But all of a sudden, oh, you're at this like documentary festival.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, you guys are winning some awards. Like, oh my God, like this is cool. I'm like, well, guys, we're been doing this for like a long time.
Yeah.
And we're still growing and still doing this thing. But it's kind of like, I do agree with you. Once you're kind of there, people are like, yeah,
totally
amazing.
And I don't even want an Oscar. I'm not like an Oscar-winning actor. I'm like working. I was on the CW for, you know what I mean? Like I'm no disrespect to that, but like I haven't. But still, you can tell that there's such a huge adjustment. But what's beautiful about that, at the end of the day, as opposed to it being a negative that you hear those people, you know who's been riding with you from day 100%. And who will be with you no matter what. And that is more beautiful than you can't put a price on that.
I totally agree with you.
This man doesn't know how hard he made it for me because he went before I went. And so he found success, he was working. But then the problem with me is as I'm leaving Edmonton to go do this thing, I'm going for writing. He's an actor. So now at the parties, everyone's saying, "Oh, you're going to act just like Sachin." And telling Indian parents that aren't your own that you're not even going to act, you're trying to be behind the scenes, they're already deflated for you. Everything about it leaves their body. That they're like, "Oh, okay, cool. That sounds great."
Man, they're
like,
just
no interest in you anymore at all. Because
that's
there's no clout to chase if you're not
exactly
on screen.
100%. But I think that's why our parents get along so well, because they were like the two our parents are I love his parents. My parents are the bomb. Yeah. They get along so well, and they were so like open to be like, go experience, go live, you know, while still having some sort of like, okay, but just I love you. Be careful.
It was graduate then go. That was kind of
graduate then go.
That was what my parents.
Yeah, that was the deal. I got the same deal.
Yeah, like graduate then go. Which I'm glad.
Happy.
Yeah, so glad.
You know, I think if I went to try to do this before I graduated, I would have done it so stupidly. I would have no knowledge base behind it. No. You know, I would just ran out and kind of did it.
I think I can agree with you guys. But here, let me get you guys another topic here. And then what better topic than life in 4K? But it's better to actually get Shawn 1.0 back in the seat.
Oh, is he back? Thank you so much. So, Shawn, to update you, we did In the Arena, which honestly, I would like to hear a little bit of yours about what you feel about that. I did the whole quote because I wanted the podcast to hear because it's a beautiful quote. We talked about, you know, the people in the arena who don't listen.
Yes.
But what when you started doing what you were doing, did you have any of that?
Leaving, his was even, I would argue, harder than what we were, because he was leaving a lucrative, like a very stable, high position
to do something.
This,
nobody,
right? So,
nobody even had any, what you've done. I think is so original.
Yeah. Well, you know, part of the reason why I brought this episode up, but by the way, I should catch up. But by the way, shout out to Mo, who just filled in as a podcast host, one of the best. My son like ran in. He has a bloody nose. I brought my 3 kids here. Okay.
It was a moment.
He was so excited to tell us it's the first time the kids are at the office, and then
first time and the last time that I will be here at the office. So. No, part of the reason why I was excited to bring you guys on is because, you know, there was a moment. Remember, we had this joint party. It was your going away party.
That was the best party, dude.
It was an incredible party. You were moving to Vancouver to start this acting thing.
Yeah.
It was my birthday, but at that time, I actually had failed like this big exam that was like it was the one. It only happens once a year. It was like the UFI exam. It's for your CPA exam, and I didn't know what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. I had no idea, and it was like I had to sit in that moment to figure out, you know, what does a career look like for me. And so here you were going off, and here I was at this party, and that was literally. It was like 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And you sit here today, and you know you've gone off and done some amazing things. You know, I'm continuing to try to do that as well. And how far we have come from that particular party.
Wow.
And the reason why I brought up this subject is, unless you are in your particular arena of your particular craft, your particular zone of excellence, nobody else around that understands it, right? So you shouldn't, the opinions of others who are not in that arena, they shouldn't even matter.
Yeah.
Yet sometimes we let those things filter into our minds because we're doing something out of the ordinary.
Yeah.
And the reality is that most people, they're not in the arena. They're not in that game.
Yeah.
So why are we giving their opinions any levity at all? And so, that's why I wanted to bring up the subject and go back to that moment and to fast forward where we are.
Because I have that quote in my apartment. I have it on I have it framed. And I started thinking about it even deeper because I think people, even in your field, if you're trying to do something different within your field, like you are or anything like that, I don't think anybody can say anything to you. I don't think, unless you get some sort of unless you're out there trying to get advice from people or you do all that stuff, or you can get advice for these things. But I think in every arena, because of the aggressive competition in most arenas, a lot of the time, the stuff that you're going to hear from those people in the arenas aren't there to benefit you. If you're succeeding and you're doing very well, you have to know who you can listen to. What's your inner circle, right? Your arena should just be you.
Wow.
It should be nothing else.
So do you think, let's look at somebody at the top of their field, somebody like LeBron. Like, what are you going to tell LeBron that he doesn't already know? But LeBron is surrounded by...
And he knows who to listen to. He knows the right people that are cultivating his experience in a positive way and trying to actually make him... There's a difference, right? You have to have discernment for knowing, is this piece of information? Yeah, I need this to better myself. Nobody knows you better than you. Right. Once you've done some sort of self-adjustment and self-awareness, you know what your weaknesses are, and you have to know what they are, and you have to know what you can grab informationally from people. But a lot of stuff you don't need to listen to.
Right.
It's unimportant almost, because everybody's doing something so incredibly different.
Yeah.
He also broke the mold as to what the stereotype for his upbringing is, which is the one mother household, no money, and the rule we all know growing up is you need to not bring your friends with you along the way in terms of you need to make those business friends moving forward. You're gonna be a star. You're gonna be a mogul. You need to make X, Y, and Z. And he's like, no, I have a crew that I trust.
Yeah.
And they also did a really good job as to surround themselves with the right people to not screw it up. You know what I mean? But
Beautiful.
How often do you see people question any of your friends or any of the people around you? And I think what you were saying, it made me realize something, and I want to ask this to you guys. How often do you get quality unsolicited advice?
That's what I mean. Quality, you have to know what somebody's, and as I've gotten older, and maybe it's because I'm getting really spiritual about all this stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And the awareness of who should you listen to and why, right? Because a lot of people, you feel like, you're like, oh man, this is good knowledge, information. But I found a lot of times it's not good information.
Right.
There are people who mean you absolutely well and who have a knowledge base in your career, and friends that aren't even in your industry or in your career that have some sort of knowledge base in life that you can listen to to better. In the arena is such a specific thing to think about, but your arena is cultivated by your experience, and it should be. You are the center of that arena, and it's your job to fill it with whatever you know is going to make you the best version of yourself every day.
Yeah, I love that. And as I reflect on this question, I don't know. Like, to me, I garner advice from people that are world-class in their particular field that might be tangential to what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So, for example, like Mo, who just stepped in as a as the podcast host here, he is a world-class filmmaker. So with some of the things that we're doing, or we're shooting a keynote, or we're shooting something, like, I'm going to look at him to say, hey, how do we do this in the best way?
Beautiful.
Now, he's not in my particular field, but he's in a tangential field.
Yeah.
And so if he's giving me some advice, then I'm going to, I've seen his work, I've seen his craft. But I guess in my particular field, there's very little advice that I've taken.
Yeah, and you shouldn't.
But again, with Mo, that's someone you're working with, so that's almost like a partnership. My question is, when I say unsolicited, I'm talking about we have hundreds of mutual friends, even, right?
Yeah.
That have nothing to do with your industry, and we've all had it before, where someone will tell you something, and you're like, that has nothing to do with what I'm going after. Like, they don't even understand, right? And it's like, that's where I'm saying, if it's unsolicited, and for example, you going on YouTube, I've started watching this guy Ask Vin on YouTube, and I love him. I think he's really, really quality, and it's solicited because I'm actively pursuing it. Whereas if someone just tells me something and they don't have any knowledge in my life, I don't really.
Did you just say that you're just randomly following Vin Jiang?
Yeah, I just found him recently. Yeah.
Okay, first of all, let me tell you about Vin Jiang.
Am I about to hear something bad or good?
No, first of all, he is the GOAT of storytelling. He's the GOAT of communication.
He's amazing. And
you know what's crazy? He had like 10,000 followers on Instagram, and he started to post more on Instagram, TikTok, and then one of his videos just popped. This is totally a side note, but he mentioned him, and I know him. I called him because he's a dope keynote speaker. So we had a call during the pandemic about some of the stuff he was doing and just sharing information because I honestly believe that he was the top of his field. And then he started popping on Instagram and TikTok. I literally sent him a note. I'm like, dude, what is happening with you? You're just like, you're literally blowing up.
Yeah.
And then people are finding, and it was so, for me, it was like so beautiful because I believe that everywhere around the world, there are people that are world-class in their particular field. And it's just that people don't know.
Yeah.
And then once the spotlight is on you, then and the world finds you, it's just like the most beautiful thing.
Yeah.
So he started growing and growing and growing because his content is amazing, his information is so great, and I'm just so like happy for his success. And the fact that you mentioned his name on this pod, just randomly, unsolicited, man, that's incredible.
Yeah,
that's fucking incredible.
I'm so happy to hear that because I'm gonna
tell him that.
When you said that, like, did you just mention? I was like, oh, is there a scandal?
Yeah, there's something I don't know.
How sad is that? That my brain's
worse.
I was worried that I was like, am I watching the wrong person? Am I getting a can like all that stuff? But his content is so high quality, and every piece of advice that he gives, even if it isn't something that applies to me, I like try and morph it into something that applies to me. Just the way he presents it.
Dude, I'm gonna cut this out.
Like it's unbelievable how well he presents his ideas. I don't know. I'm glad that you know him and he's a nice person and he's doing well.
He's an incredible guy.
Because I really enjoy his stuff.
And that's cultivating your own experience with what you take and what you learn from anything else outside an arena and putting it into your arena and building it as it is. Like if you listen to anybody, Shawn, about what you're doing because you're doing something so different, you might have made it a little more cookie cutter and it would have been 100%. Worse. Right? So if you're listening to people actually in your field that are doing these things, be like, oh, I can take this, that it might have been just so more straight-laced than what you're doing, and it wouldn't have popped off and been as great as it is.
Right. 100%. I totally agree. I want to move on to this next subject.
Yeah.
And we chatted a little bit about it yesterday. And the concept is called the Russell Westbrook trap. Now, on this podcast, I've talked about this a little bit too. The Russell Westbrook trap is this idea that we often get really romantic about our existing identity, our existing standing in our particular field, our craft. We're successful in a particular area. But when the environment changes around us, we need to pivot. We need to move. We might need to take a new role, to develop new skill. Yet we get stuck in this trap because we become an expert. We become successful. And Russell Westbrook, as we all know and love, we love Russell Westbrook.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but at least Sachin loves Russell Westbrook.
I love him. Yeah.
If you don't know who Russell Westbrook is, for the audience, Russell Westbrook is the triple double. Am I saying?
Yeah.
Triple-double?
The leaguer all-time triple doubles.
Is he the all-time?
All-time, yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Is he all-time? I don't know if he. So, unbelievable, former MVP. But what's happened over the last number of years is he's gotten traded from team to team to team to team. And part of the reason why he's been traded, it's not because he's not good. It's not because he doesn't bring value. It's that I believe that he hasn't been able to pivot and move and change the way that he plays because he's stuck in this old Russell Westbrook way of doing things. Yeah. And actually, subsequently over the last couple of years, I think he has changed. He's taken a new contract for
2 year, $8 million.
2 year, $8 million. He did come off the bench, so he has done some things.
Yeah.
But what do you think about this idea of the Russell Westbrook trap? And maybe your take if it actually applies to Russell Westbrook, because I wrote this in my book.
Yeah.
So it's cemented.
Yeah.
No, you're right. There are two distinct things I think about this now based on, and I think one of them has to do with my love for Russell Westbrook. But the first one, you're completely correct. People get whatever worked for you at one point And then if things fall off, why wouldn't you mentally think, oh, I should just do that thing that I did that worked before,
Right.
as opposed to thinking, things have changed.
Yeah.
I have changed. I can't do that anymore. Or I have to find a new way to reinvent myself in a different sort of way to coexist in this new ecosystem. That is the most important thing of life, because that's about constant growth. That's about constant changing, which I think is all life should be. A consistent focusing on the system of your growth, as opposed to focusing on anything else. Even if you're trying to compete in one situation or trying to win one thing, whatever the case may be, in that time, still, you should be focusing on that system of growth.
Right.
And over the course of time, you will just be building. The second thing I think is, a lot of the time, you are put, say Russell Westbrook, for example, league or triple doubles, he gets traded. The system doesn't work for him, for how he plays. You have to also be in a right situation to show off what you can do.
Right.
And an ability, maybe you have that ability. But it happens a lot in the NBA where a really good player gets a huge contract somewhere else, and then it just doesn't work out because on that team, within that structure, they were crushing it. But they're not built for a different kind of structure or a coach.
So, but as an individual in that particular situation, is it on you to develop those new skills, to come off the bench, or to do whatever it takes to navigate in that particular environment, or do you just, I'm like, I just need to go somewhere else?
It might be tough because what if you're the main things you bring to a team, if you revoke those and try to do something else, you might not to build an entirely new career for yourself in a skill set you've not built over 25 years might make you disappear from the league.
Right.
As opposed to being like, okay, maybe I should do this stuff a little less. And you definitely have to readjust for that team. But also, I think a lot of it matters where you are, around the right system, around the right people, around the right things. Being put in a situation that allows you to shine while allowing your growth and change is also an important factor. But we do have to grow and change as we build. That'll only happen.
Really, I want to bring up another concept after that is really fascinating. I think you're bringing up something really interesting.
I think the Westbrook thing is actually, the more I think about it, is actually a really good example for people in our age demographic as well, because he actually, as someone, I watch the Lakers. I love watching LeBron. He's my favorite player.
Yeah.
So I got a firsthand experience of the Russell Westbrook experience last season and 2 seasons ago. And what I realized is he hasn't really lost a step. Nothing about Westbrook says, in my mind, if I'm him, that I need to change. Mm-hmm. The problem is the game, thanks to analytics and Steph Curry and the way the 3-ball, Russell Westbrook doesn't shoot the 3. Mm-hmm. The game has changed around him, and that is actually scarier. Because if you're at the peak of your powers, but the industry around you changes, it's way harder for you to come to the realization. Whereas if you're in your 50s, 55, 60, and when it's changing, it's easier to make the adjustment and say, I need to adjust because I'm not with the time.
So what do you mean that it applies to people that are our age?
So I think it's more difficult when you're at the peak of your powers in terms of where you are in life, in terms of your energy levels, your ability to work, your ability to be in your industry and be a leader, to make drastic changes when you're at that age, right? So what I realized with Westbrook is he is still as good as he was 6 years ago. He's just lost, he's lost his place in the league in terms of the value he brings to a team. Nothing about Westbrook's game when I watch him looks any different than his 2017 OKC and 2016 OKC runs.
And so the game has changed.
The game has changed, but he hasn't lost anything. And that he doesn't miss games. Westbrook plays, he's an 82-game guy. So I realized, I'm like, whoa, this is way scarier than Melo coming off the bench.
Totally.
Because Carmelo hit a point where he couldn't play 35 minutes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Needed time.
Westbrook can play 35 minutes a night, 82 games.
100%.
And that's scary when you're younger. And your industry is changing around you, but you're still as good as you've ever been.
Yes.
You know what I mean? That's what I mean when it applies.
But that now he's taken this 2-year, $8 million. He could have gotten a lot more money.
Yep.
Took this because he's in a system now that plays a little more old school basketball, a little more mid range, a little more stuff, and it allowed him to flourish. And all of a sudden he's flying again, and you realize, oh, he wasn't bad this whole time. He was just in a bad system. And my knock always with Russell Westbrook was that we were calling him trash, and that to me is trash. He's still a very good player. Maybe he hasn't adjusted. Maybe he's not in the right system. But the idea that visually when I'm watching him, I see a very, very good basketball player who's in a system that maybe isn't allowing him to be Russell Westbrook in the way he should be. No fault to, honestly, anybody at that point. He just needs to be in the right system. Found one. He took less money so he can be himself.
Right. So it's really fascinating because, I want to give some tactical takeaways for folks who might be in the Russell Westbrook trap.
Yeah.
They are at the peak of their powers in terms of their career, yet the environment has changed around them. Like, you could be the greatest typist in the world, but when,
Yeah.
you have computers and AI coming out, like, it doesn't matter anymore, right? You can just speak, or another example is that you could be the best switchboard operator, but when the phone system changes, you're out. The game changes around you. And so, in my opinion, what Russell Westbrook or anybody in this situation has to do, you have to constantly find and figure out where the game is going so that you can develop new skills, you can pivot and mold so that you are adaptable, you are flexible enough to be relevant in this new environment.
Yeah.
And I go back to LeBron because to me, the LeBron is the GOAT.
Yeah.
Because LeBron has sustained his excellence over decades because he's molded his body, he's molded his game, he's molded everything to do with how he plays the game. Maybe not everything, but at least he's developed a shot. He's developed, this bully ball style. He's developed different aspects of his game, and he's been able to adapt and move. And that's why, to me, he's the GOAT, because he's been sustaining this excellence over time in a very competitive league. And so I think that's what people have to do.
Totally.
Yeah,
I
it's
think
hard,
he's the
though.
greatest example. I think he's the greatest example of what you're talking about in terms of molding and changing with the times in order to get better and finding, like, that's why players get older and they get a better shot because they have more time and they stop worrying about missing. I think a big thing about, and this could be for anything, you stop thinking about these basic things that you used to think about when you were younger. And so you're not worried about it anymore. It doesn't affect your game. Him adjusting that back down game he has, the way he can still drive to the hole when he needs to, right? That kind of adjustment is something, and it's just about focusing on the system and continuing to grow. If you, like, for example, with Russell, I'm the triple-double king. Why should I have to do anything? I can do everything on the court. But you have to adjust. LeBron has had foresight and been like, I have to make this change. I have to do this, I have to do this. And that is a person who's about constant improvement.
Right.
And you can't ever stop that, because when you do, you will be left behind, especially the way the world is moving.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
And you brought up a really interesting point, which was, setting yourself up in the right environment, in the right sort of around the right people, the right system. And I think about this a lot, whether it pertains to sports or to individuals, that maybe we just don't have the right look around us. We don't have the right system or infrastructure around us to really blossom. So I look at somebody like, going back to basketball, I look at somebody like Andrew Wiggins, who is on the Golden State Warriors, bounced around for a couple different teams.
Yep.
He was for all, many people said that he would never amount to anything, right?
Yep.
And he's put in the Golden State Warriors infrastructure, their system, and he flourished, became one of the key drivers as to why the Golden State Warriors won the championship. And I'm fascinated with this idea that you put somebody in a completely different situation and then they just a slight shift in their direction and they become a champion. And you think about other people around the world, you just put them in the right environment, in the right moment, in the right infrastructure, and they can just flourish.
Yeah, that is, it's so funny the way that life is built. A lot of it has to do with confidence, people's confidence in you, your ability. You're representing your strengths, and your weaknesses are either hidden or people don't care about them because your strengths are so valuable to whatever you're bringing. Being around the right area, the right organization, around the right people is such an important thing. And with Golden State, if we're going to a basketball example, that's an equal opportunity, free flow offense. Everybody's going to get an opportunity to shine, and your weaknesses will be hidden. If you can find that in whatever world you're in, as opposed to it being this kind of rat race of like, no, I've got to beat this person. I've got to beat this person. I've got to be better than this human. I've got to be better than this human. That, to me, is a detriment to modern society in general. This idea that we have to beat everybody.
Right.
That is the detriment to everything. A free flow off, because there is enough room now, especially with all the stuff that's happening, for everybody's success.
Right.
I think the best example outside of basketball, as much as I don't want to take it away from basketball, that I can think of is Robert Downey Jr. which is someone who had the talent, he's like a Russell Westbrook in terms of talent, like the ability. He was in Hollywood, he was given chance after chance, but went through a lot of issues, drugs and alcohol. But because of his ability, Jon Favreau went to bat for him to be in Iron Man when they were starting this new, the MCU essentially. And seeing him in a controlled environment with a good director, with a good studio behind him, with backing, and him making the adjustments in his life to say, hey guys, you believed in me, I'm going to show you why you should believe in me. Look what it did for him, and then look what it did for the franchise. Like, that franchise doesn't exist without Iron Man. It's not what we see today, right? So that's an example where if you make the adjustments yourself, if you help yourself, the people around you, if you're good or great at what you do, will also help you.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's where there's an example where I love the Robert Downey Jr. story, because so many people wrote him off, but it's just perseverance on his end to fix whatever was going on, and then also a studio and a director, one man, going to bat for him. And I think it's great. It's like a full redemption story for someone who is at the peak of their powers.
Yeah. So I think in that situation, somebody actually provided him a new environment.
Yeah, but he had to make the changes first.
For sure.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he didn't. He was through rehab. I think he'd been 2 years sober, something like that, a while. Like, you couldn't go to Disney or you couldn't go to Marvel and have Robert Downey Jr. coming out of rehab and say, we want him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He had to make those changes, and by doing that, he gave himself a chance to get into that movie.
Love it.
Right?
So I think the takeaway here is really that I think everyone is just 1 yard away. Like, if you fundamentally believe that you are great in your particular craft or your field, but you don't have the right look, right? You're just not there yet. Maybe you're just 1 yard away. Maybe you have to just put yourself in a fundamentally different situation, or different people, different infrastructure around you, and then that might help you grow.
It's huge. It's huge to cultivate your own growth by having things around you that are meant to facilitate that growth.
Yeah.
That's acting, especially. Like, you just need one director who sees you for the right thing. Robert Downey Jr., for example. Yeah. Like, all these people always say it. Like, I was doing this for so long, and then one director just thought I was awesome.
Yeah.
And they were right.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of, honestly, there are so many talented actors that I've seen that haven't worked a day.
Wow.
It has nothing to do with anything.
Well, you know what? I don't know the world of media, entertainment, acting, but to me, it's like the most competitive industry on the planet, because there are so many talented, good-looking people on this planet, and there are just so few.
But you can't.
roles.
With this, it's crazy with this industry. I've seen competitiveness in acting destroy people, and I made a choice really early that I'm not going to have that in me at all. And anybody that tries to instill that, I've seen it kill people, because not only is it a subjective industry, not only are there enough roles for everybody to work, your job should be to just have your own growth. Sure, there are lots of people around. There are lots of actors. But every director likes one person, and then a producer hates that person, thinks they're terrible.
Right.
It's the most subjective thing on the planet. And I've heard this because I know people that are competitive in this industry, and that's great. It works for some people. I find, for the most part, the people that I look up to and the people that I want to be, the actors, or I've just seen competitiveness in acting destroy people.
Wow.
Because there's a point where it's so many ebbs and flows, you're going to dip and you're going to be like, why? There's something wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you as an actor. I want to tell so many actors this, that when they have a dip,
Yep.
you are amazing still. It's just somebody hasn't seen you for what you are, because they are looking at something else.
Right.
And that's okay.
So I'm curious. One of the subjects that we talk about in almost every episode of The Dangerous Ideas, because I think it is the most dangerous idea, is that today we're in the era of the individual, that the power has shifted to the individual, that individuals are now even more powerful than institutions. And you see this across every single industry, where the people that have influence and power, they can dictate the terms within their, it's the player empowerment movement. It's the LeBron in the NBA. It's Messi in the MLS. That's why he got a revenue cut from Adidas and Apple. It's why the Kardashians can, they have pull. It's why Logan Paul can sell, these Prime drinks and have kids around the world want these Prime drinks because influence and having a direct relationship with your audience, with your customers, with your users has real power. And I was just listening to the episode with Stephen A. Smith, and he said something at minute 55 of this podcast where he said, I'm an employee of ESPN. He's like, all these people got laid off at ESPN, and they're all employees, and I'm an employee at ESPN. But what I am trying to do is I'm trying to change myself into a product, just like how Joe Rogan did it, just like how Bill Simmons did it, and beyond. I wanted to turn myself into a product, and I see the power in that. He said something like, "Are you paying attention?" And I'm like, I was shook, because that is exactly the reason why I left my firm, because I saw that power. I'm like, oh wow, I can have a direct audience with my I can have a direct relationship with my audience, and there's power in that. So I flip it back to acting to say, will you see a moment where the people that have influence, they can now dictate their productions, the movies and the shows that they're in, and they start. You don't have to be at the helm of some production studio. You have the power.
I feel like that's all. I think that acting might have been the first industry to do that. The star power. Once you get two movies that are huge and you're a draw. Look at The Rock. Look what he's done. He wasn't an actor to start, but he was a draw, and he's built himself into a movie draw. So he dictates everything. Disney is going to him for movies now. That's happened for years. Tom Cruise has had the most ridiculous run as an actor in terms of his ability to draw things. So now everything, but he has been a draw from day one.
But with The Rock and Tom Cruise, they built their audience in the old school model where they had the original movies that gave them the shot. Like in this era, in the last 5 years, who's an actor or actress that first of all, it's very hard to name a actor or an actress that everybody knows today. But
it does take time. The thing is you can't say it's like a 5-year thing, because all this gets built over it's usually not a shotgun. All of a sudden now you're a $20 million actor. It's I've built these things. I'm big, and then all of a sudden, boom. George Clooney worked for how many years, and all of a sudden, then for acting, for some reason, when you can start garnering that I'm doing this and I'm getting paid this to do it, it takes years of building up to that, to the point where the public now is like, this is this person. You become a larger draw. Nowadays we're seeing with TikTok and all that stuff that those are immediate responses, but with acting, it's always been a slow cultivating of who this person is, and now they are this person. Denzel became Denzel years after. So even nowadays, like for example, we have a Jenna Ortega who's blowing up right now. It will still take her some time to become that, boom, this is now a person. And sometimes they won't.
Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, they started their own studio. Air was their own studio, directed by, I believe it was Ben Affleck. So I think it is happening. But an argument could be made that someone like Logan Paul, you're saying it's self-made, right? But he still did need a generated platform of a YouTube or a Twitch. Of course. They need those platforms, right? Yeah. So in a way, you could argue that his initial paychecks on his way coming up were as an employee of YouTube, right? That's how he was before he was Logan Paul. That's how he made his way up. So the acting side of it, it might over time take less time for someone to have a big movie and then go into their own thing. But I see where you're coming from. You are still at the beginning stages in a lot of these places, an employee of that space. Sort of, but
I don't think YouTube, at some point Vine put on Logan Paul, maybe promote him a little bit, but at the end of the day, it's on you.
Why is it not on the actor or the writer or actor who makes that? Just because they're using the studio for the funding, it's still on them, the success they have from it, right? Like Superbad, that is a Seth Rogen, Evan Goldberg project. They needed a studio, but who here in this room, maybe Sachin can, because he's in the industry, can tell me what studio that actually came from?
No idea.
Right? So Superbad is Seth Rogen's and Evan Goldberg's. It doesn't matter that they had a studio backing them. That is theirs, and that's how we associate it.
Right.
right?
And studios would love us to think like that too, because they don't care about looking like they're at the forefront. They care about making money.
Right.
So they don't care who's getting the notoriety for it. They don't care that it's this, this, this. As long as they're making money at the end of the day, they don't care. You know, because at the end of the day, the actor's making, say the biggest actor getting $20 million for that movie. Harrison Ford making $50 million for the last Star Wars. Studio, that movie sold over $1 billion. They're fine with somebody getting $50 million and looking like that's your movie. They're fine with that because they're making so
I get where you're coming from. I just think that not every industry is going to be designed to be that way, because the costs that you have to incur to do some of these projects, like you can do independent films all day long for very cheap. But let's say, for example, George Lucas, you time travel him into today.
Yeah.
You can't make Star Wars without
No,
that.
of course. All I'm saying is that the mechanisms of getting power today, whether it's using social or all these platforms, it's easier than ever before. And now that you have a direct relationship with your audience, now you can dictate the terms and choose the production companies, choose the people around you to work with, and that balance of power has completely flipped. The player empowerment movement, the NBA player empowerment movement, is happening in every single industry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's what I believe.
Yeah.
It's happening in your accounting firm. It's happening in your marketing firm.
Yeah.
It's happening everywhere.
Yeah.
So, to me, the most powerful thing that you can build today is like trust. Is a relationship. It's to put out your ideas in the world. Like, to me, it's so important.
It's so funny also. I think nowadays a lot more people are less willing to work as hard. So in studios and these big things find people that are willing to do that kind of groundwork. They're like, star, we
Right.
need this. We need this person. We need this person. So they are more empowered, because the people that are empowered are the people that are grinding. The
Right.
Rock is grinding.
Right.
Like Kevin Hart is grinding. These people,
100%.
we're like, oh my God, look at their lives. They are grinding.
100%.
They're not just sitting. So that's why studios are like, that's why we want this human. Because not only is he working out at 4 a.m. to make sure he's jacked for the superhero movie, he's doing this, he's selling this, he's making Terramana tequila. He's like, you know what I mean? Whatever your feelings are towards any of these people, they're grinding. And I think studios now, when they see that, are amped by it.
Yeah. Yeah.
In any industry.
Totally. I look at Taylor Swift and what she's been able to do with her tour. I don't know if you've been following,
Yeah.
but they're saying that it's going to be the first like $1 billion tour.
Yeah, what is it, like 50 million? How much was she making per night?
I think she makes actually. I think she makes 13 million a night.
Yeah,
Get
13 million a night. Yeah,
Out.
Yeah.
Dang. Good
Yeah.
for her.
it's a crazy number. Yeah,
Yeah.
But
she
it's
also
not just
took her
it's
music
not.
back.
But it's not just the ticket sales. It's the merch. It's all the other
She
things.
disrupted the industry by taking her music back.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Well,
no
she's
one had done that
re-recording her own songs.
and just giving it. What is it, Taylor's version?
Yeah.
And then she's asking all her fans to download and listen to its exact same song, because she can use the same song, same titles, everything. She just has to call it Taylor's version,
Yeah.
and that's taking the royalties away from the third party.
Wow.
Right?
No, she's incredible, and the power that she has wielded because of her direct relationship with her fans is the reason why she's been able to build a tour like that, which is really amazing. So listen, I want to wrap it up a little bit. I'm starting this anew because I love talking about current events and things that are happening in the world, because people love just I don't know, they love the current events. We also love clipping it out and putting it out in the world. This new Barbie movie coming out. You guys are both like movie buffs. New Barbie movie coming out. What are your thoughts? You guys excited about it?
I'm so excited about it. They had Barbie. We all know what Barbie is, product-wise.
Yeah.
Huge. But they could have rested on their laurels and been like, we'll just make a Barbie movie and toss it out. They got Greta Gerwig to direct it. They're making it a very different movie. They got Margot Robbie, who is one of the most, if not the most talented actor currently.
Really?
But a lot of people don't. The problem with acting is a lot of people, if somebody's extremely beautiful, their talent is looked at less than how beautiful they are. Tanya, she can do anything. She has done anything.
Wow.
If you watch Babylon, her in that movie is unbelievable. She doesn't miss. and she can do anything. So her playing Barbie, which is notoriously going to be a very difficult. I'm telling you, Justin knows we're nerds. Harley Quinn is not an easy role to play for an entire movie because it's a very basic character where you're like, hey, Mr. J.
Yeah.
But to make that a human being to watch for 2.5 hours is a tour de force.
Wow.
These things that she does in movies is amazing. And a lot of times because she's so beautiful, we're like, oh, she's beautiful. But
Danny
she's
DeVito
actually
has the same problem.
Danny DeVito, 100%.
You can't
Oh, man. Look at him in Twins.
Yeah,
Do you
you probably,
think
Oscar.
So you think Barbie is going to be a hit?
I think it's going to be fantastic.
I
They
think it's
got
gonna be a
everybody.
hit.
They're doing it well. I think they're going to make it an actual story and not make it some sort of just fodder for buying Mattel.
Yeah.
They made it a movie.
So you think it's going to be a smash? You have a prediction that Barbie's going to be a smash?
Barbie and Oppenheimer are both going to be smashes because people are going to go watch both.
I think it's kind of it's done both movies well that this little battle has happened that they're coming out on the same day.
It's almost
Yeah.
a joke. Yeah.
Because they're totally different audiences when you look at it on the face of it.
Right.
But I am very excited to see both. So it's kind of cool that they meld so well.
Totally.
But yeah, I think it's
thought
gonna be
I thought you because they have different Kens. I thought you could have been a really good Ken.
I don't know.
They needed a brown Ken.
They would. I would love them to have a brown Ken. I don't know if I would play a good Ken. I'm old now, man.
Dude, Ryan Gosling is the main.
Yeah, but Ryan Gosling is like he doesn't
They have
age.
Simu Liu. I think you're the.
What
same
I do
Simu
love
Liu.
about Barbie, to completely overhaul that conversation, is that it's bringing back the movie. Now, these Barbie and Oppenheimer, like back in the we only had Marvel tentpoles for a couple years, and people were worried
Yes.
that we were losing movies.
Yeah.
But now, like we're just getting movies back, and they're doing well, and it's so exciting to me because we're gonna get some really original content. Go watch Wes Anderson's new movie.
Hey, bring back
Asteroid
the movie
City.
theater. I know Sachin's with me on this. I love going to the theater.
I live above one, so I can walk down there.
I wish I had that. That was,
It's
Do
the
you
best.
think? Do you think the movie theater is coming back?
Yes.
I think so. I thought it was dying, and then during COVID, I'm like, oh, it's dead, right? Like this, I thought this was the thing to kill it. And what an advantage Netflix had and Disney Plus had to be able to have a platform for brand new releases while theaters are closed. But man, it's not the same.
Yeah.
You know what? You know what the movie theater does? It takes away your phone for an hour.
Thank
and a
you.
half.
Right.
And that I miss things. I'm more guilty of it than anyone. Yeah. If I'm sitting at home and I'm watching an NBA game, unless it's like a playoff game, my phone's part of the experience.
Yeah.
In terms of scrolling, group chats, all of that. For 90 minutes to 2 hours in the movies, I can just enjoy one thing.
It's our last real great sanctuary.
That and doing a podcast.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true.
100%. Yes.
We haven't checked our phone at all.
Yeah,
No,
it's
but
been very nice.
But being fair, doing a podcast, it is kind of like being on our phone.
Totally.
We're in the group chat right now.
Yeah, we're in the group
We're
chat.
literally
It's
like,
not like being on a
It is.
completely different.
We're talking about all of our favorite things to talk about. Like that's all I'm doing right now. Whereas
Yeah.
like a movie is an immersive experience. Even if I'm at an Oilers game and I love watching live sports, I'm on my phone.
Yeah.
I'm checking it constantly. There's like, what parts of your life do you not have your phone, other than like being on camera?
But what's great is the pendulum for everything. Anytime anything happens, whenever something happens in the world that changes the framework of the entire world, whatever happens, always look at it like this. The pendulum will swing this way aggressively, and we will all think, oh my God, we're going to stay here. But it's going to ease up and come back here. Whether it be political change, societal change, this happens so we can get here. And this happens so we can get here. It's never going to stay here. It's always an immediate
worried
reaction.
theaters were going the way of like the newspaper, right? Like the Blockbusters of the world. That's what made me nervous, is because people weren't seemingly happy without it, but it seems that it's coming back.
Well, I think in a world that's highly digital, highly transactional, you can press a button, you can get anything to your door. I think we are going to be craving more experiences. So movie theaters, I think, will be still relevant. We went to the Stingers game yesterday, the Edmonton Stingers game yesterday.
Sold out.
It was sold out.
Yeah.
It's a basket. Nobody
Yeah.
knows any of the players. There's
Had a blast.
But we had a blast.
Yeah.
But the
Watching.
more, again, with the pendulum swinging so technologically, people are exhausted with it. And now they're going to want to go out more. I'm seeing more people out than even before the pandemic right now.
Yeah.
Because people are wanting to live and feel life again.
That's
and
actually
it's
fair.
awesome.
I mean, we I manage a golf course, so the uptick in amount of people that have come through in the last 2 years since the pandemic, I thought it was just during the pandemic you weren't allowed to do things other than outdoor sports, but our numbers have not only maintained but increased.
Yeah.
Like experience events is something that I think is way bigger than I even anticipated.
By the way, last topic I wanted to bring up with you was Liv Golf basically buying the PGA.
Yeah.
The Saudis coming in and basically scooping up, getting the PGA. They'll call it a collaboration, a merger. It was the Saudis buying the PGA.
I'm waiting.
And as a
for
golf guy,
I'm waiting for the expose article. I don't know who's going to write it about the make goods for Rory and for Tiger. Because these guys,
I don't think they're going to get a make good. I think
well,
they made I think they just took the L.
I think there's going to be something from the PGA, because the problem with Tiger and Rory not getting make goods, it doesn't matter. It honestly doesn't matter about most of them.
Explain what a make good is, because they didn't take the deal from the Saudis.
They didn't take the deal from the Saudis, and the Saudis paid a lot of money for guys like Dustin Johnson, Phil Mickelson made bank. All these really famous, popular golfers got money to go play in Liv Golf, and Tiger Woods said no. Allegedly, it was $750 million, but no one knows for sure. When it's Saudi money, it's like it's funny money. You know what I mean? Like, you have no idea what numbers they're saying. And Rory apparently left 9 figures on the table, and the Saudis essentially bought the PGA, meaning now those guys, they said no for whatever reasons, mostly moral from what you hear, and now they're working for the people that they said no to.
But okay, besides that, as somebody that manage a golf course, isn't it good for golf? Because
yes,
okay, it is.
Yeah, of course. First of all, anytime golf is in the news, it's good. It's like, what are you guys talking about? Tiger Woods was the best thing to happen for golf
100%.
in the last 100 years. Like, it's unbelievably good for golf. And anytime you have money backing a sport and you work in that industry, I'm sorry to say the moral reasons you can be against the Saudis, but for our business, it is really good for golf.
Right.
It is 100% good.
Do you think that the Saudis will integrate
Buy Eagle Rock? I hope.
What's that?
What?
I was actually going to ask. It's like Louis Vuitton. They bought all these brands, and then they started to buy like retail outlets. And like, do you think they'll buy golf courses?
I don't know why they wouldn't. Like the bigger ones,
okay.
I don't know the availability of like the famous golf courses in
Do you
the
want to
States.
put it out? Eagle Rock is for sale?
It's always
Saudis?
for sale. Always for sale. But yeah, it's I don't like. I think they already own probably some of these golf courses that we might not even know about. The other thing is the name on the billing isn't as important as the owner itself. Like, some of these places you don't want to know who actually owns it, right?
Right.
There's probably Trump properties that people visit that people don't know are a Trump property. You know what I mean? So it's one of those type of things.
Well, after this podcast is done, I don't know, for some reason you're gonna call your the golf course is now be called Al Riyadh the golf course, and you're gonna change it. No, it's it's really interesting to see what.
Yeah, I think it's great, and I mean, I think the scary thing for other sports is I think the Saudis aren't coming for more. It's not just golf.
Yeah, what do you think they'll come for next?
I would think soccer.
Because Saudis are buying culture, basically.
They're buying soccer teams too. I know that I don't know a lot about soccer, but I do know that there is Saudi backing for a couple of the bigger teams. So I'm guessing worldwide soccer is the next easiest one for them. So
to me, they got
to offer Ronaldo like $700 million for 4 or 5 years. Didn't he go?
Yeah, he went.
Yeah. So like that's got to be.
They offered Messi $1.6 billion. Down.
He turned it down.
I would buy Drake. If I were the Saudis, I'd buy Drake. Drake is culture.
But buy him in what do you
I don't know. Buy just be like, you're on our label. We start a new label. Riyadh, the music label.
I'm very interested to see what's going to happen with Drake. I'm seeing a changing of the guard, and I think if somebody has to adjust, it's got to be Drake. I think Drake. I love him. I love Drake.
Right.
Like, I listen to him. He's Canadian, represent. But I am seeing a changing of what people are listening to.
Yes.
And the responses to him.
Yes. Oh.
And if anybody should adjust or not should adjust, or because he's always reinventing himself in a beautiful way.
Yep.
I would like to see. I'm excited to see what the new reinvention of Drake is going to be.
I think actually Drake has been great at continuously trying, improving, seeing what's next. That's why he's been irrelevant in this game, while everyone has not.
100%.
He's like, he put out like a dance track album.
Yeah.
He's current with what's happening with TikTok and memes. Like he understands culture.
Yeah.
So but you're right that I think there was a stat that on Billboard, like, hip hop for the first time ever was not on the list for the best album or top song in the last 6 months. I could totally.
I would say. I guess maybe it's not. I'm worried. I want to see. I'm excited to see what's next.
Got it.
Did he ever release an NFT?
He did not. No.
That's why I like that.
He did come up with a poetry book, which is basically kind of like an NFT. But anyways, listen, gentlemen, this was an amazing episode.
Great.
We talked about so many amazing things, concepts and frameworks that will change people's lives, dangerous ideas for sure. So listen, if you haven't done this yet, subscribe, rate, review. Justin actually went into Apple Podcasts and he put a review in. God bless this guy. We got 1 review, which is awesome. And
double those numbers. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's
well, thank
go.
you guys so much for coming.
No problem.
It was a pleasure. Thanks for having us.
Awesome. See you guys later.